Hello, good morning to everybody. Today we'll start about the development of nervous systems. Previously, we have learned the so many systems of development that most of the structures of bodies are developing from the three basic germ layers, namely the ectoderms, endoderms, and mesoderm. Yes. So, out of these ectoderms, few parts of the ectodermal lining which differentiate into the new type of the cells from which the neural plate is developed, and from this neural plate neural tube is developed. The whole nervous system is developed from the ectoderms. So before starting the development of nervous system, the basic structures that we have also learned initially, but here this is just revisions how the neural tube is developed. The neural tube is developed from ectoderms. So we'll learn the few terminology. What is neurulescence? Neurulescence is the process of formations of neural tube. So before starting the formations of neural tube, some cells of ectoderms which overlying the notochord is become differentiated, and now its thickened cells is converted into a particular type of the cells now is responsible for formations of neural tube. Initially it forms the neural plate. Then further development of this plate is depressed inside, and in this way it makes the groove is known as neural groove. Now the neural plate is converted into a neural groove. Now both ends of this neural groove comes near to each other and fuse, and in this way this groove is converted into a neural tube. Whenever this neural tube is developing, at that time at dorsolateral side, few cells are arrange and make one another group of the cells. The special type of the cells is known as neural crest. During the development of the nervous system, two things, neural tube formations and formations of the neural crest cells, and from this whole nervous system is developing. This nervous system is developed from the neural tube as well as the neural crest cells. Now, which are the structures developed from the neural crest? So, neural crest cells, which are responsible for some special type of the structures, cells of posterior root ganglia. So, each spinal nerve having a two roots. We know the anterior and posterior. Out of this posterior root having a one dilated part is known as dorsal root ganglia is developed from the neural crest. Another type of the cells populations is presence into the autonomic ganglia. That means sympathetic ganglionitic chain is also developing from the neural crest. Third variety of the cells which are present in adrenal medulla. They are also a derivatives of the neural crest. And then swan cells which are responsible for formations of myelin sheath of peripheral nervous system, also developing from neural crest. And lastly the melanocytes cells which are present into our skin responsible for the color of skin. They are also a derivative of neural crest, and apart from these few cells, I think into the teeth, they are also responsible for neural crest cells. These are the some derivatives of the neural crest. Now we start from the caudally. Neural tube is having a cranial dilated parts and caudal terminal or cylindrical part. From this cylindrical part, tubular parts, whatever the structures develop is known as spinal cord, and spinal cord is protected in the vertebral column. That's we know. And development of vertebral column we have already learned the skeleton system. Now we'll start to development of spinal cord. In the development of spinal cord means histogenesis of neural tube. So this neural tube initially having a only one layer of cells, but ultimately these neuroepithelium cells most inner layer of the cells. Recent investigation says that all the three layers are developing from these neural or neuroepithelium cells. But most of the books has described the three layers developmentally or three zones from inside to outside. They are the matrix or ependymal cell layer, then mantle cell layer, and marginal cell layers. How these cell layers are developed? Initially, these cells, neuroepithelium cells, are differentiated into a some larger type of cells of the nervous systems known as neuroblast, and this neuroblast and spongioblast cells ultimately develops the neurons and another connective tissue cells or means neuroglial cells, which are then migrate into the middle layer. It is known as mantle layer. Most of the neurons or neuronal cell bodies are present in this mantle cell layer. From this mantle cell layers, for example, the alpha neurons which presents into the anterior gray columns or also known as the motor area from which the axons is passed out, and this axons is then going towards the spinal nerve. In this way, three layers. The most outer layers where there is the only axons are present is known as marginal layer. So neural tube is having a three layers from inside to out. They are the matrix or the ependymal cell layer, then mantle or the middle thick layer made of the neuroglia and neurons, and most outer cell layers which is known as the white matter or marginal cell layer. The three are the three different zones of development of spinal cord. One more thing during the development of spinal cords, during which the one sulcus is developing and which differentiate the gray matter of spinal cord into the two regions, anterior and posterior, also known as the anterior gray columns and posterior gray columns. Both the parts initially having a two different type of functionally different type of the cells population. Cells which are present into the anterior part, it is known as basal plate from which the motor neurons are developed. That means from here the motor nerves and fibers which are responsible for motor actions are going to this ventral root, and dorsal parts having a sensory neurons. This neurons is comes from the central process of dorsal root ganglion, which are responsible for sensory components. It is known as basal plate. Sorry, dorsal plates or also known as LR plate. This is basal plate or LR, and sorry, this is basal anterior. It is the basal or motor functionally, and posterior for the LR plate. In this way, two functional columns are developed, and there is also further development. Both the plates again they're having a general and visceral will be later. Now, positional changes of spinal cord. During the development of the spinal cord, initially up to the 3 month length of vertebral columns as well as the spinal cord is same, but at the 6 to 7 month there is difference due to the growth of the spinal vertebral column is fast than as compared to the body. That's why the length or lower end of the spinal cord is somewhat higher than the lower end of vertebral column. That means the lower end of the spinal cord is extended up to the cervical sacral vertebra. But at the time of the birth, its lower end of spinal cord is extended up to the L3 levels, and then its adult level is final positions of lower end of the spinal cord is reached up to the L1 vertebral level. So this is the positional changes of spine.